Entonces, bienvenidos una vez más. Es la segunda de las charlas. Están aquí ofreciendo los profesores que vienen de Finlandia. Y bien, la profesora Sari, que es la charla de ustedes hoy, es una experta en fisiología de plantas y ha trabajado con árboles en Finlandia. Y tiene muchos otros intereses, pero va a mostrar a ustedes un poco de su trabajo. Y también una breve presentación sobre la universidad en que ella trabaja. Y aquí yo tengo aquí esos libros chiquitos aquí para que ustedes puedan ver.
Kontunen-Soppela from the University of Eastern Finland, and I'm really happy to be here in your beautiful country, in the very nice place of Ikiam. The first slide shows you a landscape from my native farm. So this is Finland, lakes and forests, lakes and forests. This is where my family comes from in this kind of area. And first couple of things, university. So we are a multidisciplinary and international university. And where are we? So you can see the map of the world, the Ecuador, the green one, near the equator, as your name says, and we are up in the north. So very far away from here, and that gives, in my talk, I will tell you what it means for plants, and especially the light and the photoperiod and the environment, what the plants are living in Finland. So the University of Eastern Finland, we have about 50,000 degree students and 2,500 staff members. We are currently situated in 3 campuses, but soon just in 2, in Joensuu and Kuopio campuses. And our Joensuu campus here is an aerial photo of our campus, one of the main buildings during summertime. So in Joensuu we have a bit less than 8,000 students, and we give education in the fields of humanities, economics, business. Educational sciences is big in Joensuu campus, and also we are in the part of science as a biology, but also forest sciences, law, and so on. And the campus is like Ikiam in a way that it's so nice and compact, and the students can go and buy everywhere, and it's all in one place, just like you have it here. And the Kuopio campus is about 1.5 hours drive from Joensuu, and then there have a bit less than 7,000 degree students. And if you want to study health sciences, medicine, pharmacy, that's the main there in Kuopio. There you can see an aerial photo in Kuopio at the winter time, and you can see that the lake here is frozen. It's the same lake as in the other photo there. My department belongs to the Faculty of Science and Forestry, and we are among the 5 departments there. The whole faculty has more than approximately like 3,000 degree students, out of which like about 10% or more are international students. So much of the teaching is given in English. And we have about 500 doctoral students, and in our faculty like 50, 60 PhDs thesis are graduating students are graduating every year. Then our department, which just merged some years ago with the environmental sciences, so now we are environmental and biological sciences, and we are in 2 campuses. And We both, Raine, if you listened to him yesterday, and we are from Joensuu campus, where the main subject is biology. But we have a close contact with the people in Kuopio, in our department, and there the main subject, if you go to study there, is environmental science. So, but we have a nice cooperation also for teaching. In our department, we have about 500 students and more than 100 PhD students altogether, and a bit less than 200 staff members. So we are the biggest department in our faculty. And what we do in the faculty is the main focus of studies is the biology of environmental change, especially in biology. But there's also a lot of aquatic research. And in environmental sciences, there is also air pollution and climate change studies and effects on human health as well. So in biology, the main research area, as said, is biology of environmental change in both terrestrial and aquatic ecosystem. And here you see a variety of species our researchers are studying. So anything from fish and berries from seals to plants and birches and bushes, so on. So there's a diversity of things happening at the department. I just want to advertise that we have nice master's degree programs, which has started in our department. So all the, it's a 2-year master's degree program in biology of environmental change. It operates both in Joensuu and Kuopio campus. And we select about 10 international master's students every year. It's a 2-year program, so anybody who has a bachelor's degree in biology can apply. If you have a bachelor's degree from Ikiam, you are entitled to apply to our master program as well. So now I go to my subject that I was planning to talk about today, and it's the circadian and photoperiodic control on some ecophysiology traits of woody plants. And here you see one of our experimental plots in our botanical garden one summer. Now the trees are bigger. That photo was taken already like years ago. So everybody knows that light is really, really important for plants. Everybody knows probably that plants photosynthesize, so that's why they need the light. But the light also promotes the growth and affects the development of the plants. And plants respond to light quantity. So here it's probably obvious if you go to the rainforest, you can see that there are plants deep down in the rainforest that don't get that much light. So they are adapted to the shady conditions. But if you put a plant that usually is in sunlight, you try to, that is adapted to sunlight conditions, it will grow really differently if you put it in the shady conditions. And also, if you have a plant that is getting just the light transmitted from the canopy, so growing below the other plants, it gets a really different spectral quality of the light. So what it gets goes through the other leaves, and what the spectral quality of the light that reaches the plants at the lower level is really, really different. And plants can perceive the light. They have a system, certain kind of proteins, besides, of course, chlorophyll that captures the light and takes it into energy. But plants have different photoreceptors for different wavelengths of light. For example, the blue light and UV light can be detected by the cryptochrome and phototropin, and then the red light is detected by the probes, for example. So plants have a system to detect what is the wavelength of the light. Plants also can detect the duration and the direction of the light. For the illumination, here is a classical example. If you put a plant pot in a place close to the window, so the plants try to, like this pea plant here, grows towards the light, so it knows where the light is, and that's where the photoreceptors come into the picture. So that the direction of light is this way, and then you can see how the plant tries to grow towards the light. So that's the spectral quantities of the light, and then the quantity of light. But there is also a difference in the rhythm of light. So for you speaking Spanish, I think circadian rhythms means something. But for Finnish students, I always need to explain that, okay, circa means about, and diem is a day, so it's about a day. That's the rhythm during the day. And these are the normal light dark cycles. So when we have the day and we have the night, because the Earth is moving. And this pattern regulates the biological activities, not just in plants but also in us. You know, you get tired in the evening and so on, and you need the light to be awake again in the morning. And in plant life cycle, the circadian clock regulates many aspects. For example, it regulates the germination, it regulates the plant movements. The leaves can make those kind of nested movements so that they kind of close during the night, for example. It regulates the movements of the chloroplasts, where the chlorophyll is inside the leaves, for example. It regulates the movement of stomate. There are small holes in the leaves that let in the carbon dioxide so that the plants can photosynthesize. And it also affects, for example, the emission of volatile compounds from the plants. So some flowers can send the volatile compounds during night, so then the night butterflies during the night can come and pollinate those plants, for example. And some plant species are open at different times of the day, for example. But what we are interested, and we have been interested, is that there is a latitudinal effect on the daily length. You are living here now, and we are all now in the Ecuador, which is close to equator. So for you, the time of the sun sets always the same time, and the sunrise is always at the same time. But if you go to Finland, which is up here, you can see that this is the month of the year, and Finland is about the latitude 60 over here. So during winter hours, we get less than 7 hours, sometimes 6 hours, and the more north we go, the more steeper is this. So in the northern Lapland, there's 0 hours of daylight during the darkest winter months. But on the other hand, during the summertime, you always get the 12 night and day. But for us, during May June, July, August, we get 20 hours of daylight, and in the Lapland, the sun never goes down. So it's night and day. You can see the sun. It's 24 hours of light. And this is why I am interested, and we are interested in studying the effect of the photoperiod. And this, one of the aspects, oops, that's the wrong way, is that this photoperiod helps the plants to detect when to grow and when not to grow. So one of the main things for us is to study the phenology. So the timing of growth and the timing of quiescent phases over the year. So in Finland, there's no way that the trees can grow or any plants can grow when there's minus 30 degrees, minus 20 degrees and snow, and then for some places no light. So they have to know when to stop to grow. Otherwise they will die. And this is from an article made about 10 years ago with the Swedish people. So here you can see the active growth period of the plants and then the non-growing season. And what determines when the growth ceases here, when the growth stops, the plant is also like dropping its leaves. That's the day that they measure. Because if they would measure just the cold temperatures, that varies every year. Sometimes the cold temperatures come in September. Sometimes the September can be really warm still. It can be like 50 degrees. They could grow, but the plants, to be able to survive, they cannot take the risk that the frost suddenly comes and then their buds will be dead and the tissue will be dead. So they have to measure it. And this is where the day length comes into the picture. So that's what they measure. Then they go dormant, there's a non-growing season. And then in the springtime, then they measure the temperature. And that's another thing that I could talk for another 2 hours. I'm not going into that and the temperature measurements of the plants, but then the bud flushes and then the growth starts again. So what we have also been studying a little bit is the growth regulation and dormancy in woody plants. So there's the seasonal cycle between the growth and the dormancy. And the dormancy we regard as that there's no visible sign of growth. The plants are not dead, for sure. They're just dormant. They're kind of hibernating or sleeping there, waiting for the right time to grow again. And if you go and check the metabolism, you take out the buds, for example, and check them in the lab. There's still things going on, even if it seems that nothing is happening. So as said, the onset of the dormant period is regulated mainly with changes in daylight length. The temperature has some effect, but the light is the most important there. And then they need the cold temperatures to know that then start growing back again. So then chilly temperatures will release the plants from the dormancy, and then it's warm enough again, they start growing again. What then happens with the climate change? It is expected that there will be an increase in temperature. And in Finland also, there will be an increase in air humidity. So in some places, yes, the wet will get wetter and the dry will get drier. And in Finland, we are here in northern Eurasia, where we'll get a bit warmer temperatures, but a lot more rainfall, also probably a lot more snowfall during winter. And then there are places like Asia and Sahel region that are already dry, they will get even drier. But the climate change will not change the photo period. So if the temperatures are changing and the water pressure relations are changing, what will happen to the plants? Because they still have the changing, the fluctuation in the photo period. Will they be able to acclimate? And we have studied this with silver birch, which is Petula pendula. I'm standing there with one of our experimental plots during autumn time. When the leaves get yellow, they drop. And this is also commercially important species, not just beautiful, but it's being used in traditional times for making baskets, the peel of it. We use it, the twigs by growing sauna. And it's also, the wood material is used for making plywood and furniture, for example. So it's also commercially important species in Finland. I think the estimation is that about 70% of the Finnish forests are covered with the Petula species of silver birch. And what we wanted to study is the acclimation capacity. So we have Petulas in the north and in the south of Finland, and even within Finland, the difference in the temperatures and the daylight is very marked. So our birches be able to cope with the changes in the environment. And we have two methods of study. We have the common garden experiments that allow us to compare the different provenances. Provenances meaning the plants from the different parts of Finland. I will show it in my next slide. And different genotypes also, so different individuals in common growing conditions. So we established multiple sites with different growing conditions in different parts of Finland. But this allows us to compare the temperature plus the effect of the photo period. But then we also have had controlled chamber experiments that will to compare the light effects separately from the differences in the temperature, for example. So this is a big experiment that we have been running for several years. Some of the data is still unpublished, and some has been published. So what we did is we collected birch samples, twigs from 6 different places in Finland. 3 of them are in the south. I don't know if it's going to work here, but these 3 are in the south of Finland, and then the 3 from the north of Finland, from different latitudes. And then we said, here is Joensuu, which we named as the central site, and then we had a northern site and the southern site where we grew the plants. And what we did is we cloned the plants. So we know that we have exactly the same genetic background of the trees, of the genotypes in each of the plants. So we did micropropagation and multiplied the plants. So the genetic background from the tree should not affect. So we can kind of do a study with twins. So as if one of the twin with the identical genetic background would be living in Tena and the other in Finland. So we put one, but in plants you can like multiply and multiple with the clonal production. So we have the clones in these 3 places for different genotypes. And here you can see the difference in the day length from where these plants come from. So 1st of June, the northernmost plants, they are in constant daylight. So 24 hours of light per day, and in the south, it's only like 18 hours light per day in the first day of June. And there's also a big difference in the study sites. So the growing season for the northern site is only about 100 days. So they can grow for about 3 months, and that's it. June, July, August, and then the growth resumes. And then when the autumn and winter comes, they have to stop growing. Whereas in the southern Finland, the growing season sometimes extends by more than 170 days, so it's 1 month more growing time for them. So what we studied in these sites was growth. We also studied gas exchange. So we measured leaves for photosynthesis and stomatal conductance. And then we measured the phenology. So the bud burst, when the leaves start to emerge, and also the growth cessation, so when they stop to grow. And I'm going to show you now some results. These are students doing the measurements in the field. And what we wanted to know is there a difference in the phenology and gas exchange from south to north? So is there a gradual change? Could it be so that when you take plants from southern Finland and a bit northern, would it go gradually that something just changes and changes? And what we also wanted to know is, are all the different provenances from different parts of Finland, are they able to acclimate? So is it possible at all? And then we wanted to know if there are some adaptation at the northern perches that they have to their northern environment. For example, it has been shown in North America that some of the northern provenances might have higher photosynthetic capacity than the southern ones. So that's what we wanted to study as well. So for the growth, it shows that the southern provenances, they have higher biomass accumulation than the northern in both of the sites shown here. So this is the central side on the left side, this is from Joensuu, and this is the northern side from northern Finland. And here is the latitude of the plant origin. So here is the southern plants, and here are the 3 northern plants. And you can see that there's a huge difference in the height or the biomass of the above ground biomass of the plants. So this is measured in kilos when we cut the trees. So here is almost 14 kilos, and here is 2. So there's a huge difference. But I don't think we have a gradient that it go like that. More like it seems to form like 2 groups, the southern ones and the northern ones. And in the northern side, the biomass is much smaller, for sure, because the growing season for all the birches is so small there. But it seems that also there, the southern plants are growing much better. So what we conclude from this is that it seems that there is a better acclimation capacity for the southern populations, because they also grow when they are away from home, planted in the north, very north. So they overgrow the northern ones. I hope you can see this, but this shows the phenology, and this shows the growth cessation, so when the growth ends. And it shows you 3 different years, and in one same picture, the 3 different sides with different colors. But these are the southern side plants, all these green, the 6 ones are the plants growing in the central side, and these are at the northern side, at the growth species. And here are the latitudes, so these are the plants from the north. So, and these on the y-axis you have the day of the year when the growth stops. So here also you can see that the southern plants grow longer in every place, and that's the reason for the bigger biomass as well, I think. So the northern plants just stop growing, and especially if they grow in the very south, they just stop growing. They always stop almost at the same day, and it seems that there is the day length that comes into the picture. So they measure that, okay, it's almost, I calculated it's almost 18 hours or 19 hours light per day. The autumn is coming, it's time to stop growing. And they stop growing in July, but they still would have like 1 month at least. They would be able to grow in the south in terms of temperature and so, but that's an adaptation to the polar period, so it seems. Then we measured the gas exchange, and these are only from the Joensuu side, so the central side, and it seems that the northern populations, shown here with the white dots, they are taking in the net photosynthesis a bit higher, and also the stomach are open more, so they get more CO2 in and they can photosynthesize better. And what we think is that this might compensate for the shorter growing season, so they can they take in more CO2, but you can't see in the growth because just the growing season for them is too short. So there is a better carbon assimilation for the northern population, but we yet don't know if that is a compensation for the short growing season. And then we started to think, so what's the impact of the polar period on the carbon assimilation? Because this is taken just at one time point every day, so not throughout the day. And then we also studied the diurnal variation in the photosynthesis efficiency in the field. This we did with the chlorophyll fluorescence. So in the field we find that there's practically no difference between the populations. Now the blue one is from the north and the red one is from the south. But there is a huge variation in the field. So then we thought that, okay, we do that in chambers, in controlled conditions, when everything else is taken out from the thing, and can we see this variation during the day? So one of our students here, he started to measure the plants at 6 o'clock in the morning, then 10 o'clock, then at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 6 o'clock in the evening, and 10 o'clock in the evening. Then went to bed for a couple of hours and repeated this quite many times. So I'm grateful to my student for this hard work, even though we didn't get the statistically significant results for this one. So what we did then is we took the same plants from the north and the southern Finland, and we also took some plants from even more southern place in Italy. We got some plants from Italy, and we grew them in growth chambers in pots. And what happened there is that we also noticed that if you put the plants in short day, so 15 hours of daylight, and then the rest is night, there's no difference between the plants. All the plants do the same, whether they are from north or from the south. But if you grow all the plants in 24 hours of light, then the northern plants do better. So this shows you chlorophyll fluorescence. I'll start talking about the microphone. So this is the chlorophyll fluorescence, and the higher the value here, the better the plants are doing. So every plant is doing well in the short day conditions. But in the long day conditions here, the blue ones are from the north. They are doing well from 6 o'clock in the morning till 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. But for the ones from the south, they just can't make it when the lights are on all the time. So they are starting to have stress. The ones from Italy, they try to do a bit better in the afternoon hours, but they are not doing that good as well. So it seems that the northern ones are really adapted to the 24-hour light cycle. And this is the after 5 weeks in the experiment. So they really do better. But if you just look at this, it's a nice picture. But if you look at the plants, this is the long day plants, and you see which one is doing better. I would say that they all look almost like the same. So they grow equally well. But thank you. But what we saw in photosynthesis didn't tell this story. But if you grow these like for, let's say, another 5 weeks, then I don't know what would happen. But if you take a look at the short day plants, okay, these were doing great, yeah. But if you'd like to produce some plants, other plants in a very short day condition, this is what happens. They just don't grow. They stop growing. They still photosynthesize stuff. At least they don't grow above ground. We still haven't washed the roots, so we don't know if they grow below ground, if they produce more roots here. This is something we don't know and we have to do it instead. But yeah, if you just measure something from the chlorophyll fluorescence, for example, it shows that, okay, these are doing great, but you should always check the whole situation with the plants. So that, yeah, we can see that from the plant physiology point of view, from the photosynthesis point of view, the northern ones here, they are doing great in both conditions. But if you look at this figure of the plant growing, it's not the case, and these are actually growing quite nicely still. So, some conclusions of the study. So in the field, it seems that the northern populations have a high photosynthetic capacity, better than the southern ones, but it doesn't translate into a higher growth. So where does the carbon go there? What happens to the plants? That's an interesting question. And it seems that the growth of the northern population was limited by short estimated period of carbon gain. So just the shorter time that they could be growing because of the shorter photoperiods when you compare to the southern ones. And also we noticed that the southern and the northern populations form two distinct groups based on our results. And this is like confirmed also by genetic analysis. So it seems by publication where I'm also in, that was published last year in Nature Genetics about the genome sequencing of the population genomic analysis of silverbirds. There's a huge list of orders mainly from Finland. But it seems that Finland is a mixing zone between the European and the Asian shores population. So probably the southern birches have come after the Ice Age from Europe and the northern populations from the Asia. So we have kind of two populations and no trend or something like that. And also our results imply that there could be a different acclimation capacity for the southern and the northern birches. So we will see in the near future, if and when the climate is getting warmer, for example, so will the southern birches overtake, because they probably can slowly migrate more northwards. So we might lose some genetic variability in the bird population if that would happen. The trees are wind pollinated, so the dispersal of the pollen is like really efficient, so that can happen in that sense. And in the future, what we try to figure out is that will the southern population then outgrow the northern ones? This is related to the pollen dispersal as well. And is there an effect on the temperature on the photosynthesis of the northern and southern populations? So the daylight seems to have an effect, but are the northern ones able to do it if the temperature increases? So what will happen to them? And we already had a couple of experiments in growth chambers where we grow them in different temperatures and see the temperature responses. Those data are not yet ready, so that's what we are going to do next. So I would like to thank the team, the co-workers and co-workers. There is part of the team of Professor Elina Oksanen here, and many students. And we have got funding from the academy, but also strategic funding from the University of Eastern Finland for changing climate and biological interactions related to forests. This is how we measure the growth in Finland. So with one birch tree was about 4.5 students. This is one of the highest trees in our field site. Yeah, and here is some light. This is from our campus, and it's concrete. If you come to Finland, you might see the northern lights. This is from University campus. Here you can see the parking lot and some of the main buildings, and this was taken in October 2015. So welcome to Joensuu. Thank you all for your attention. I'm ready to answer your questions. If somebody wants to ask in Spanish, maybe you can translate. Yeah.
Sari, gracias. Entonces ahora preguntas, consultas, dudas.
I'd like to ask, I'm completely unrelated to Finland, so I don't know if you could go back to the picture of the different plants. I'm not sure, I know what Turing is, but I don't know the other two places, so I'm not clear about which one is the south and which one is the north.
This one?
No, plants.
Sorry, I should have put the latitude there.
It's alright. This one, yeah.
This is from north, this is from southern Finland, and this is the ones from Italy. This is from north, they are doing really bad with the short egg conditions. And this is from southern Finland, and if you make the Italian plants, which are really like far from Finland, they are doing well.
Okay, and then I have an additional question. I'm not familiar with it, so I'd like to know which method you use to measure photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis, we've got two methods. This way. This was done with the light. So we measure the gas exchange. We can measure the uptake of CO and also the movement of water, so we can detect the stomach alpha activity, so how much water is passing through. So we have a sensor for that. And this one, a fluorescence. I should take in a photo of the device, but it's a small handheld device where you can study it's called forest span, so pulse thing where you measure the chlorophyll fluorescence. So it tells you about the efficiency of the chloroplasts and especially the photosystem tube inside the chloroplast and how, because that's the first molecule to take the light quartz and transfer it into the light system. So we can detect both the light part of the photosynthesis plus the carbon intake. So we have devices for both things.
But you need to maybe collect some of the leaves and then prepare them
we
somehow.
can do it. It's we can do it at the field. The wrong way. But you can measure it from the leaves. So you can put this kind of thing, attach it into a leaf, close the chamber. There are lights, and there is a constant flow of air, with controlled air. As you measure how much, if you put a certain amount of carbon dioxide that goes in, then you measure how much goes out. So it tells you if the plant has photosynthesized and then. And we can control the light. So there's one leaf inside, and we can take it off and measure the same leaf for next day or 2 days after, or throughout the whole day. So that's how we can do the diurnal changes. If you try to do it carefully enough and don't damage the leaf, you can do it like several times.
Wow, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for asking questions. Yeah.
¿Alguien más? ¿Alguna pregunta de los estudiantes?
The population of with the change, the population has started to run in the same place, the different places. Okay, I have a question. The population of the different latitudes are living in the same place, or?
Yeah, because we move them into the same place. So we put these common garden sites. So we have these different 6 populations, and we collected them, we cloned them, and then we planted the plants so that they live here, and all the 6 live here, and they also live here. So we have 3 different sites in south, in Joensuu, and then in the very north. Did I answer your question? And then we also have them in jars, in silviculture, so that we can multiply them, and we can have the same individual kind of genotypes, because we can just clone them, multiply them, and use the same plants in the chamber. And the benefit is that for the genetic studies that we did with the Helsinki people that were in that article, they have been using our varieties. So for the genetic study, so we know exactly the genetic background now for our varieties. That's a way to. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. We also was asking if the populations they grow naturally, same place, or
Yes.
No.
That's we try to get the population so that they represent the population, because we thought that there might be different, but it seems that there are the southerners and the northerners, and not like different climate trend and something will it gradually change, but it seems like that's not the truth.
Okay. I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Something that was very interesting to me is that indeed, when you're talking about climate change, where the species are going to migrate, if they can migrate, the rise of temperatures, for example, but it's also important to know where they come from.
Yeah.
So if you think about these species that grow here in the Andes,
yeah.
they have been going or migrating upwards and downward during the last 10,000 years, or because of these cycles of the interglacial cycles. So it's before we start to take the conclusions about what's going to happen with this species, it's also important to know which adaptations they have to deal with this variation of temperatures, for example.
And that's why I'm glad you now have the genetic background. There were also like birches from Germany, some, Sweden, but also towards the Asia, from the Russian side. So we know the genetic background from many populations in different parts of the Eurasia.